Well, good evening once again, and welcome to the Monday Review Show. And thank you all for joining this show and other shows, of course, as well. And also thank you very much for all the comments that you have been sending in. And I do my very best to try and reply to every single person. Again, delighted to be joined by Keith Hackett. We're going to run the rule over last week's FA Cup games, particularly, and there were quite a few incidents in those. Now, you may or may not be aware that the VAR is only available and used at Premier League grounds, not Championship or League One, League Two. So only Premier League games. And of course, this causes a problem because it was being used at Premier League where the Premier League teams were at home. If they were away at a Championship or League One, League Two, then there was no VAR. And Keith rightly pointed out this is a bit unfair that the Premier League teams would appear to have an advantage over the lower divisions, as it were. And you wrote about this, Keith, and you have a recommendation.
Well, my view is that I think you've got to have parity. What we have to remember about the FA Cup is it starts in August, September, and non-league grassroots teams, this is part of the competition, take part in it. And therefore, my view is that there should be no VAR in operation until you get to Wembley. And at Wembley Stadium, the semi-finals and the final take place. That should really be the only place where VAR is used.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Sorry, I was fiddling with the mouse and I dropped it and cut us off completely. So yeah, you were talking. We were talking about VAR being available at Premier League games and not at others.
Yeah. So again, just to reiterate, my view is that VAR should only be used when it comes to the semi-finals and final of the competition. The reason being that those games are played at Wembley Stadium. You know, the likelihood is that there's Premier League teams and Championship teams in that competition at that stage. Who knows? But nonetheless, it's there. It's for everybody at that stage. The four teams that would be involved in the semi-finals. I think this weekend we've seen a number of incidents where VAR was involved and VAR was not available on one or two crucial incidents that might have helped the referee.
Yeah, okay. So we'll go through those one by one. You mentioned about the Chesterfield versus West Brom game. The home team, Chesterfield, are they League One, League Two, League One?
No, they're actually National League.
Oh, so wow.
They're outside the Football League. It's a wonderful stadium. It nearly went bust, the team, in fairness. And then a group of people got together. It has a wonderful secretary called John Crew, who was the inventor of walking football, incidentally.
Oh, right.
And it's a really, they're really nice people.
Yeah.
And you know, they were leading 3-2. It's incredible.
Right. So the main incident you picked out from this game was with a lady referee, and it's great to see them. I see them involved. I was watching the Munster URC against South African team, I think, the rugby, and it was a lady referee, and she did very, very well. This lady referee, Rebecca Welsh, and you said there was an incident off the ball and it wasn't picked up.
Yes, what happened was she's moving towards the penalty area, and on the film clip behind her, you can see a deliberate elbow. I mean, this is very clear. The player has used his arm elbow as a weapon against his opponent, felled him, and there was no intervention, no VAR, of course, but no intervention from the assistant referees, which was, I think, disappointing. And the outcome was that there was no sanction, no free kick awarded. Later in that game, the same player who should have received a red card scored the equaliser for West Brom. So I'm hoping, in a sense, that the football authorities will actually retrospectively look at that and punish the individual, because it was a very clear red card offence.
Right. Now, I always told my assistants, or linesmen as we used to call them, watch behind my back. Don't be looking at the game. Don't be looking at the ball. Watch the players, the centre backs with the centre forwards and even their goalkeeper on that side, because I'll be down this side and I don't want you looking down this side following the game. If you want to watch the game, go in the bloody stand and pay your money in like everybody else. But you're on the line, you're paid to do a job, and that means control the game. You are the eyes in the side and the back of my head. So do your job. How in heaven's name? And you and I have been a long time involved in refereeing, and we're very loath to criticize match officials because we know the difficulties of the job. But in this instance, Keith, this could have been a red card. Probably was a red card, and it wasn't picked up.
Yeah.
What in heaven's name were they doing? Certainly not the assistant on the far side, but the one on the near side and the fourth official. That's their job, to watch behind the referee's back.
Yeah, I think ultimately at the end of the day, it highlights the need for assistant referees to concentrate fully. They've got a job to do. Absolutely. Not get distracted often with the technical area. We see, don't we, the assistant referee and the fourth official acting as a mouthpiece to some degree, explaining decisions to the managers in the technical area.
Yeah.
Just do your job. And Rebecca Welsh apparently did a very good job. I think when she's reviewed that, and there's no criticism of her because she hadn't got a chance of seeing it. So I think it's disappointing that her colleagues didn't come in. Let's hope the FA will punish the player concerned. The game has gone to a replay, so in that sense, they'll meet again. Let's hope there's no animosity between the two teams because of that particular incident.
Just two things on this, Keith. What was the score at the time of that incident?
It was 3-2. Chesterfield, the non-league team, were actually beating West Bromwich Albion.
Yeah, so they could have won that game and had the West Brom player sent off. The other thing, and I've often been asked this, and they may have changed it, does the same referee do the replay?
Well, I think I'm waiting to see that, because I think more and more the Football Association have gone for changing the referee.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I think just in case there's an incident of this nature. But from my point of view, certainly in my career, and I've no doubt in yours, Errol, when we had a cup tie, we kept the replay. The only time I was taken off one was I did Liverpool-Arsenal in 1979 at Hillsborough. They drew. It was quite a boring game. We then went to Villa Park and they drew again. And on that occasion, the FA came in and said, Keith, there's nothing against you and your performances. We just feel that going to a third game will put a different referee on it. And I was actually quite pleased because they put one of my the referees that I really admired, Pat Partridge, on the game. So it gave me a bit of a fillip. So, that's what happened. I'll wait and see. I'm waiting for the appointments to come out.
Yeah, I hope she gets it.
Yes.
Because, as you say, and I totally agree, it's not her fault. It happened behind her back. And it's the guys she had supporting her that should have been doing something about it. The VAR was also not in operation at Sheffield Wednesday and Newcastle.
Well, I was at this game. It was fantastic. And I have to tell you, I support VAR, but it's refreshing not to have it because the game just flows. However, having said that, and there were no real arguments, but there was in this game 2 offsides. Sheffield Wednesday player was offside when he scored, and then the commentators didn't pick up because there was a player standing in an offside position when the ball came into the penalty area. He wasn't involved in active play, but the ball was shot towards the goalkeeper who saved it, straight to this player who put it in the back of the net. The law is very clear that that player has gained an advantage and it should have been flagged offside. I was absolutely behind Gary Beswick, who was the assistant referee, who missed it. You know, the referee is no chance, but he should have been ruled out. So we had in that game 2 offsides, no VAR, nobody actually moaning about them post-match.
How do you think he missed it, and why do you think he missed it?
I don't know. I mean, you know, you've got to hold your concentration. One of the skill sets of an assistant referee, and particularly now with offside, because you're delaying your flag, is you have to have almost a photographic memory. It's almost like having a camera and saying, this is what I've seen, and then retaining that shot, if you like, that you would have with a camera in your mind. So as a consequence, surprisingly, and I must say that I watched Gary Beswick very closely. His lining technique is brilliant. His movement up and down with a second rearmost defender. I said to someone during the course of the game, I said, look, this guy's a really top-class performer. He's a class act. But in fairness, the big decision, he missed. So he lost the player. Yeah. That's the point.
What league does he perform in? Do you know, Keith?
He's a Premier League referee. I mean, he is one of our top class officials. Okay. I was thinking that he might even have gone to the World Cup. So I'll check that one later.
Yeah. Okay. The next one you had was Villa and Stevenage. Graham Scott awarding a penalty kick and a red card. You agreed with that?
Look, this was a position where I think that he should have seen the handball on this particular game, because it was at Aston Villa. You had VAR in operation, so he actually missed the handball, and as a result, VAR came in and resolved the issue. So, look, it just looked to me as though here was a referee, a Premier League referee, that should have seen a very easy handball offence and didn't. We're talking about the Villa one, not the Cardiff Leeds, because in this case, Errol, in the Aston Villa match, he went to the monitor, and he came back and awarded a kick and didn't sanction the player. So in that one, the Aston Villa Stevenage game, he missed the handball, VAR was involved, and he awarded it with no sanction. The Cardiff Leeds game, where there was no VAR, Gerard Gillett was the referee. He had an outstanding game, by the way. I thought he refereed really well. And there was a deliberate handball by a young player who was standing almost on the goal line. He prevented a goal. Gillett didn't require the VAR. There was one non-existent. He was instantly penalty kick, red card. So here was a referee in form, just got his FIFA badge back. He is an Australian referee. He did get FIFA, lost it when it came to England, regained it in the recent promotions. A good piece of refereeing from him, not so good from Graham Scott, is the point I'm making.
And just on that issue, Keith, I had an email from a guy during the week. We're talking refereeing, and he said if Gillett was a FIFA referee in Australia, why does he not bring that badge with him? Albeit that he's moving from one national league to another national league, why does he not retain his FIFA badge?
Well, I mean, I think he should have. But of course, what happened was, and the reason he didn't, was when he came to England to do research at Liverpool University, he was not automatically put onto our top league, the Premier League. He actually refereed in the Championship and in the Football League. So as a consequence, because he's not refereeing at the elite level in England at that time, his FIFA badge was withdrawn. So, good referee that he is, he's quickly won it back, and he's now on the English panel of FIFA referees.
Must
and
be something.
Interestingly, I might add, just to make a point, FIFA does monitor the referees' performances very carefully in their own competition as well as in their national competitions. And I was rather surprised that David Coote, who was a FIFA referee, as in fact now no longer on the FIFA list of referees, he's been, if you like, demoted to the position of a FIFA VAR official, which is surprising.
Yeah. Well, why is
Rarely,
that?
Rarely happens.
Does the recommendations not come from the PGMOL? I mean, they send in their list of recommendations as to who should be on the FIFA list.
Well, it's the Football Association that makes the recommendation.
Yeah,
so
sure.
the FA. So I assume it's the FA have not recommended him, and therefore his badge has been withdrawn.
It must be a disappointment to him.
Yes. Yeah.
Everyone's jumping up and down about the Liverpool Wolves game, and this goal could have, maybe should have, been a winning goal for Wolves. Was disallowed for offside. Nobody could figure out why it was ruled offside. All over the papers, of course, that the VAR, there wasn't a VAR camera in that position to pick it up. What do you think?
Well, I think that if you do not have the full range of cameras to meet the criteria of VAR, then you shouldn't operate it. So whether they do rely on the broadcast cameras, of course. Yeah. And if a camera has gone down, which it may have, or the broadcasting company have decided, because of the high number of games that they're covering, they haven't got the cameras, then it leaves this exposure. So ultimately, at the end of the day, if you haven't got the technology that can confirm that a player is either onside or offside, and the assistant referee has flagged for offside, you have to go with the assistant referee's decision. What complicated it was that the manager of Wolves appears to have a camera available that's producing technical information for him that showed this player was in fact onside, not offside. So it's a mess, simply a mess.
Yeah.
Now, but in that same game, I just want to talk about a law that's concerned me since they started playing around with it, and this was Mo Salah's goal. And what we had was, to describe it, we had Mo Salah standing clearly in an offside position. We know that being in an offside position is not an offence. We have to wait for that player to become active. The ball gets kicked towards Salah, and the defender jumps to head it, makes contact with it, and it then brushes backwards over the head of the defender, having made contact, having made what is termed a deliberate play to Salah, who goes on and scores. And now, that is...
Can I stop you there, Keith? Because people are going to say, but he was offside at the moment the ball was kicked. And then what you're saying is subsequently it was off the head of the defender who made an attempt to play it, but Salah was still offside. So where does that conflict then with he's offside at the moment the ball is played, which Salah was? Well, and it wasn't a back pass.
No, The scenario on offside.
I just need to clarify, Kate. I didn't see this until now. I didn't see
Well,
the
clarification is that, you know, you take the position of the player when the ball is played, but he's not active, and at that point he's got an offside position. He has to receive the ball to be active, or he has to interfere with his opponent. So he's not interfered with his opponent because he's behind him. He is offside. The ball is kicked. You don't flag at that point. The offside law requires you to delay the flag. It's not like in our days when immediately the ball was kicked, you flagged. Yeah. You now delay that flag until that player becomes active. This is because it may well be that he's in an offside position, but it falls to another player who is onside, and you're not ruling out a goal. This is where the complication of trying to, as they have done, manipulate the law not to be a defender and not to rule out goals willy-nilly.
Yeah.
So you cannot flag Salah offside the instant the ball is played. You have to delay the flag and determine whether he's active. But in the process of that ball traveling, the defender heads the ball. Now, in our era, in the 70s, 80s, he would have been onside anyway because we'd have played on.
Yeah.
Because it's either played by or deflected from a defender. That role was scrapped. But in its place, they moved back towards that by saying a deliberate play. And so, complicated that it is, can you imagine a young referee, Errol, in a local park having to interpret this law and put it into action? Is there any wonder we haven't got disputes with match officials at grassroots level?
Yeah.
Because the lawmakers make these laws to actually accommodate the professional elite level of the game.
Yeah.
And are tending to ignore the difficulties that it creates for grassroots football. So onside.
You just need some smart aleck coach in a Sunday morning game who would be well up on the laws of the game, and then giving the referee hassle, maybe rightly or wrongly, it doesn't matter. Not saying, I'm not justifying it by any means, but it surely to goodness, it's much better to apply the laws right across the board. And they should be thinking of the top leagues in the world right down to the Sunday morning game. And then everybody's happy. But having it this way, and I understand exactly what you're saying, but I know there are people out there who will disagree and say, no, you can't have it that way. But that's the way it is. And I think they've tinkered around with the laws far too much. They've made them far too technical, and they're creating enormous problems for Sunday morning referees.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, the laws of the game need, in my opinion, to be tidied up, not to suit the elite game, but to get back. You know, look, we can talk about the handball law that's been complicated. Let's go back to where it was, a deliberate action.
Yeah.
Deliberate action, and we can define handball much better than currently. If we want to say you can't score a goal with the use of the hand, then keep that in. But, you know, here we are, I think, in a law where I spent most of the day talking to media off air, seeking clarification for future games on this particular law, to the extent, as you can see, almost word for word, the law was published, I think, in the Daily Telegraph today, because, you know, I'm actually trying to convince someone that's been involved in the game for a number of years that Salah was correctly judged onside. And then I'm having to get the laws of the game transmitted to the journalist, broadcaster, to say, look, read the law. This is the addendum. This is how the IFAB have defined what is a deliberate play.
Yeah. Getting back to the same game and the one on the Wolves goal again, just for get clarification on this. The player who took the corner kick appears to be the one who was flagged offside.
Yes. And yes. I think what they are saying, or what is being said, is that after the ball has been crossed into the area from the corner kick, that kicker must have delayed coming away from the flag to the extent that when the ball eventually gets back to him off his own player after that action inside the goal area,
and all the pushing and shoving,
he's then deemed offside, and the one that the assistant referee has flagged offside. I ultimately at the end of the day, you have to go with the assistant referee. But I think if I was the Wolves manager, as we've already seen, he's expressed his concern about the accuracy of that decision. And I think most people now appear to have come to the view that the goal disallowed was incorrectly disallowed on that occasion. And Wolves have a
Isn't it amazing with VAR and all its refineries and technical, less than an inch, half an inch, quarter, 16th of an inch, and yet it was up to the assistant referee to flag the guy offside. But it did seem, though, Keith, that when he played the ball, that he became involved in active play. I just saw a short clip of it. He became involved in active play and came into an onside position. Now, I could understand, and this is the argument that's thrown at me, I could understand that when he took the corner kick and it was headed back across towards the guy who took the corner kick and then played it, if he was in an offside position, then yes, he should be ruled offside. But it seemed like he got involved in active play, and there were 2 or 3 little movements, and he appeared to be back onside. So I'm wondering what the interpretation was there.
Well, I think that it could well be that what has been said is that the cameras are not available for the VAR to determine the action. It could well be that the assistant referee has made an error, but because they haven't got the cameras to verify, they've gone with a flag, and they've gone with what appears to be an inaccurate flag. One of the points on this is that this is now going to pose a very big question to the Premier League going forward. And the reason I pose it is that we have to remember that within the World Cup, we had less arguments and debates about offside because they were using the new artificial intelligence system. And the artificial intelligence system to determine offsides, semi-automated VAR is the title they give it. They have to install the cameras for that system in the stadiums on a permanent basis. So they're not relying on broadcast cameras. The broadcaster might move. They're actually fixed in the stadium. So I think the Premier League have got to move pretty quickly to install and operate the semi-automated VAR system that would avoid this chink that we saw this weekend.
Yeah, the VAR is only at Premier League games, and as you said earlier, they use the feed from the people doing the match.
Yes.
Surely, for goodness, they could also use that feed in the lower divisions and stick a monitor at the side of the pitch and let the referees make a decision, like they do in rugby. I know they put it up on the big screen, and the referee gives his opinion. It's a try or it's not. The on-field decision is a try. Is there any reason why I shouldn't award it? Surely our football officials could or should be doing something similar. because the feed is there already. And I'm sure every one of these FA Cup games, regardless of how low down the division of the teams were, had cameras there. So
Yes.
could they not use that feed to make a decision? Why is it only Premier League?
I think the difference is that you've got to recognise that at a Premier League game, there are a minimum 22 broadcast cameras operated by Sky. That's a lot of cameras. Around each goal mouth, of course, there's 7 cameras around each goal mouth on a Premier League game for goal line technology. Plus the fact that this, we're talking about 10 games over usually a 3-day period. When we come to the FA Cup, we're talking about, in this instance, this weekend, 32 games over the weekend. So I think there's not only a resource problem by personnel, but I think that resource problem is for the broadcast companies as well. So, VAR would not be efficient with a couple of cameras. I think it's got to be, we're talking about a fairly substantial number of cameras. It's easy to broadcast the game using a limited number, but not to operate VAR when angles can deceive.
Yeah, but would it not? Even if there was only 2 or 3 cameras there, at least you can replay the incident, and the referee can make a judgment, a call on what he sees to the best of his ability. But if there's no cameras there, there's no replays. Well, and you can't rewind it and say, "Oh, let me have a look at that. I might be able to get," And I know, and in another issue, do they really need 7 cameras around a goal mouth? I mean, I understand the goal line technology, but you're getting goals going in from all over the place. Are all those necessary?
For goal line technology, yes. It's a completely different system because you're using AI. You're actually 7. We're talking 56 cameras with a semi-automated system. To be able to have that system, with goal line technology, you have no personnel involved. You ensure that the equipment's working before the game, and as a result, you then use 7 cameras around each goal that track the ball. So yes, you do on goal line technology.
Okay, Keith, great talking to you again. Thanks very much for coming on the show. Really, really appreciate it. Hopefully we can do it all again next week.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
And thank you all for watching and for sending in your comments. And I will endeavor to reply to all of them. Until then, next week, good night and God bless you all. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.